Hey there, lovely soul. Welcome back to Noah's Stories. Today's story is about a man who built walls so high no one could reach him. Until one quiet stranger walked in and everything began to change. A foggy morning draped the Oregon coast like a damp, heavy blanket. Waves crashed against the cliffs with a steady, mournful rhythm, and gulls cried out into the slate-gray sky. Atop the hill, a modern mansion of glass and stone stood silently, like a lonely fortress, cut off from the rest of the world. Inside, Nathaniel Cross, reclusive billionaire, lived a life untouched by others. Each day passed the same, precise, sterile, and devoid of connection. Until one day, Clara Bennett arrived. No one knew that a woman with calloused hands and a soft humming voice could shake the very ground beneath his feet. She didn't know she was changing anything, she was just doing her job, and unknowingly touched a heart that had long been frozen. The story begins there, from a place of silence to a place warmed by a single glance. Nathaniel Cross didn't choose loneliness, he learned it. As a boy, he once believed love was something permanent, until his mother wielded it like a prize to be earned. She handed out affection like breadcrumbs, then snatched it away whenever he disappointed her. And his father's version of love came wrapped in leather belts and looks that never softened. Those memories didn't fade, they etched themselves deep, like hairline fractures in the stone walls of his estate, quiet, invisible, and never quite gone. At 40, Nathaniel owned nearly half the digital world, but when morning sunlight poured through his glass walls, it only illuminated the emptiness no one ever saw. People thought he was cold, arrogant. The truth was simpler. He was surviving, quietly, skillfully, and completely alone. Inside the hilltop mansion, everything had its place. Staff came and went, faceless, interchangeable. No one was allowed on the third floor, his sanctuary, his silence. "Everyone just does their job," he told the head housekeeper, "and leaves me be." He didn't want connection, didn't want to care, didn't want to remember. Because he knew once you let someone in, they could take everything that's left. Clara Bennett didn't think she was stepping into anyone's life. She was just working, like she had for nearly a decade. At 33, Clara had cleaned more than 100 homes, piecing together every paycheck to help cover her younger brother's heart treatments. She didn't have time for daydreams, much less believe in fairy tales. And yet, the day she walked into the Cross estate with a worn handbag and soles rubbed thin marked the beginning of something quietly extraordinary. "Never go up to the third floor," the house manager warned. "That's Mr. Cross's private space." Clara nodded. She had no intention of breaking rules. She just needed this job. The salary was enough to keep a roof over their heads. On her first day, she worked silently in the grand library, a cavern of books untouched for years. As she dusted the shelves, she hummed softly to herself, an old habit from childhood, making the silence less heavy. Nathaniel saw her through the security monitor. His first reaction was irritation. She was in his space. But then he paused. She wasn't invading anything. She was simply there, gentle, careful, and quietly sad in a way he couldn't explain. He didn't know why he kept watching. And he didn't realize that for the first time in years, something inside him had quietly begun to stir. It rained hard the third weekend Clara worked at the estate. Wind howled against the tall glass windows, and waves crashed violently against the cliffs below. While the last of the staff left for the night, Clara remained in the kitchen, tidying up and packing a small container of leftovers for her brother. "You shouldn't drive in this weather." The voice came from the doorway. Clara turned, startled, to find Nathaniel Cross, in person for the first time, not just a face on a screen. He stood there, hair damp, sleeves rolled up, looking slightly unsure of himself. "The coastal road isn't safe during storms," he added. "I can call a car for you." "My brother's waiting for dinner," she said softly. "I'll be careful." Lightning split the sky, and then the power went out. The mansion fell into darkness. "The generator will kick in for the main systems," Nathaniel said, trying to sound calm. "But not the lights." He hesitated. "There's a fireplace in the library, if you don't mind." "Huh? Sitting there for a bit while the storm passes?" Clara wasn't sure why she nodded. Maybe it was his eyes, tired but sincere. Maybe it was that, for the first time, he seemed simply human. In the library, Nathaniel built a fire with practiced hands. The glow warmed the room with a soft golden hue. He poured 2 cups of tea, his hands slightly trembling. "Why do you do this work?" he asked quietly. "For my brother," Clara replied, her eyes fixed on the flames. "I dropped out of college to care for him. This job gives me flexibility. I never had the luxury of choosing anything else." "And you?" she asked. "Did you ever dream of something beyond tech?" He gave a faint, honest smile. "I just dreamed of being left alone. Everything I built was meant to isolate me." "So, you're living in a prison you designed," she murmured. Silence. Then he nodded. Clara turned to him. The firelight cast her features in warmth, gentle, understanding. "I see you're lonely," she said. "I don't know how not to be," he whispered, like a confession. And then, without warning, but without hesitation, Clara reached out and touched his face. He didn't flinch. In the flickering light, her lips found his, slow, soft, like an unspoken promise. Nathaniel froze, then trembled under her touch. When Clara pulled away, his eyes remained closed, holding on to the moment. "Please," he whispered, voice ragged, "don't let that be the only time." After that stormy night, no explanations were given. No apologies, no promises. But everything had changed. Clara no longer felt invisible in the mansion. She began to notice Nathaniel's presence, not on a screen, but in real life. A glimpse of him in the hallway, a shadow behind a doorway, not watching, just there. One morning, on her cleaning cart, she found a small book of poetry gently placed beside her dust cloths. Inside was a note. "I thought this matched how you see the world." Clara didn't know how to react. Her heart simply fluttered. Nathaniel started showing up more often. He'd pass through the kitchen while she washed mugs, linger in the library as she reordered the shelves. He asked simple things. "Is the work too much? Is your brother doing better?" And he listened, truly listened, as if her words were the most important thing in his day. In the greenhouse behind the estate, where Clara sometimes rested between tasks, Nathaniel had planted a row of lavender. The first time she saw them, blooming soft purple under the sun, she nearly cried. "Martha said you liked this flower," he said simply. "I thought you should have a place that's yours too." Clara was speechless. No one had ever done anything like that for her before. It wasn't grand. It wasn't expensive. It was understanding. Under the sunlight, surrounded by the gentle scent of lavender, Clara realized something. Love doesn't always begin with words. Sometimes it grows quietly, with small acts, steady presence, and a well-timed patch of flowers. Clara had told herself this beautiful thing couldn't last. And she had been right. One afternoon, while dusting in the library, she heard voices drifting from Nathaniel's office. The door was half closed. "You're changing, Nathaniel," a man's voice said. "The board's worried. You're missing meetings, shifting priorities, and there are rumors about the housekeeper." Clara's heart clenched. "My personal life isn't the company's business," Nathaniel replied, tension in his voice. "Not until it's splashed across headlines. A billionaire entangled with his cleaning staff. You think the press will ignore that?" Clara stepped back. Each word hit like a slap. The housekeeper. That's all she was to them, a liability, a stain on his curated world. That evening, she waited in the greenhouse. The lavender still scented the air, but her heart had grown cold. When Nathaniel arrived, his face lit up. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Clara stood slowly, her voice unsteady. "I heard everything." He froze. "They're transferring me," she said, "to another family. Whatever this is between us, it's become a problem. I won't let that happen." "And then what? I become the housekeeper sleeping with her boss, the woman who doesn't belong in your world? No one thinks that about you." "The world does," she whispered, "and I can't lose this job. My brother needs me." Nathaniel stepped closer. "I can take care of both of you." "Not out of pity," Clara choked. "I want to be chosen for who I am, not because you feel sorry for me." He said nothing, didn't argue, and Clara knew, no matter how many lavender blooms surrounded them, one cold gust from the outside was enough to make them wither. The days that followed passed like a quiet, sorrowful dream. Claire left the Cross estate without a word. Her bags were light, but her heart was heavy. She didn't say goodbye to Nathaniel. Couldn't. She left only a small note in the greenhouse, tucked among the lavender. "Thank you for everything, beautiful, but I don't belong in your world." Her new apartment was small and still. The job with the Hendersons was steady, simple, no glass walls, no cameras, no traces of him. But at night she'd often glance over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to be standing quietly in the doorway. Nathaniel, on the other hand, disappeared. He skipped meetings, canceled appearances. His executive office sat in shadows, the only light coming from a single screen, replaying footage of the library. Clara humming, smiling, touching books like they were precious things. Martha grew worried. The board grew angry. Nathaniel ignored them all. He was writing code, not for a new app, but for a system to support a nonprofit healthcare initiative. He barely slept. His beard grew in uneven patches, his eyes always fixed on the screen. He wasn't building tech. He was building a way back to her. For families like Clara's, for her brother, for her. 3 weeks later, Clara got a call. "Miss Bennett, we're calling from the Lavender Foundation, a program that supports families in difficult circumstances. You've been selected for full healthcare coverage for your dependent, and there's a job opportunity we believe you might find meaningful." Clara froze. She hadn't applied. No one knew her story, except one man. That night, her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "The lavender misses you, I do too." 6 words, but they felt like a door just beginning to open. That afternoon, the sky hung low, as if holding back words unsaid. Clara parked outside the Cross estate, hands gripping the steering wheel. She sat for a long moment, watching as the wrought iron gates opened slowly, like someone inside had been waiting all along. This time, she didn't take the back entrance. She wasn't here as staff. She walked through the front door, her footsteps echoing across the marble floor of the silent mansion. No one greeted her. No one needed to. The house itself seemed to hold its breath at her return. The greenhouse stood at the end of the corridor, bathed in the golden haze of late afternoon. The lavender still swayed gently in its neat rows, unchanged. Nathaniel was there. He turned at the sound of the door. For a moment, they both froze. Neither spoke. A soft breeze slipped through the cracks, carrying the scent of flowers and the pulse of 2 hearts long separated. "You came," he said, voice low, hoarse. Clara nodded. "I got your message, and all the ones you didn't send." Their eyes met. No anger, no accusations. Only the ache of longing that had never gone away. "I thought giving you space was the right kind of love," he said, gaze dropping. "But the truth is, I was hiding. I was afraid that holding on would hurt you more than letting go." Clara stepped forward. She reached for his hand, cold but still familiar. "And I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid we were only meant to cross paths, not walk the same road, that I'd spend a lifetime wondering, what if I had stayed and you had fought for me?" Nathaniel tightened his grip, his eyes shining. "I don't know how to not be alone," he confessed. Clara smiled through the shimmer in her eyes. "Then let me stay. Not to change you, but to learn with you. How to be together." A month later, Clara slowly moved into the estate, not as a staff member, but as someone chosen. She didn't quit working. Nathaniel never asked her to. She accepted a new role at a nearby community center, coordinating health programs for families like the one she'd come from. Every afternoon after work, she returned to the greenhouse, where the lavender still bloomed. Nathaniel would often be waiting, a cup of tea in hand, sometimes with a new book of poetry. They didn't call it happily ever after, they called it a journey. No day was perfect, But every day was real, and each day they chose each other again, in the smallest ways. A glance, a hand held, a question asked with care. "You once said you wanted to be chosen for who you are," Nathaniel said one quiet afternoon. Clara smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And you did just that." Love wasn't the end of their story. For them, it was the beginning, a place where two people who once lived in silence found a way forward, not to be saved, but to live fully. Together, day by day. One quiet afternoon in the greenhouse, as Clara watered a fresh row of blooming lavender, Nathaniel approached with a small box hidden behind his back. "You once said love grows like lavender, quiet, steady, and always reaching for light," he smiled, holding out the box. "Maybe today is the day we plant forever." When he knelt among the soft purple blooms, Clara's tears welled up, not from surprise, but from the depth of his sincerity. "I can't promise sunshine every day," he added, voice tender, "but I promise to grow with you, always, no matter the season." She nodded, her heart beating in a rhythm she knew would stay. The wedding took place a month later, right there in the greenhouse, where they had once fallen apart and found their way back. The archway was made of hundreds of lavender stems gently swaying in the breeze. Among the closest friends stood Clara's younger brother, now healthy, his smile bright. He walked her down the aisle and hugged her tightly before she stepped toward the man who had waited for her, with steady eyes. "Thank you for coming back," Nathaniel whispered when she reached him, "and for staying." 2 years later, the house was filled with new laughter. Their twin daughters, Ellie and June. One had Clara's soft brown hair, the other Nathaniel's ocean blue eyes. Every morning, Nathaniel lifted both girls into his arms, kissed their foreheads, and turned to Clara. "You're still the best choice I've ever made." Clara smiled, watching the three of them in the golden light. Her heart was full, not because of fairy tales, but because they'd walked through silence together and built something real. They needed nothing more. The fog still rolled in from the Oregon coast, soft and heavy. But this time, inside the glass mansion, warmth waited. The lavender still bloomed, and love kept growing, day by day. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes in love that grows quietly and patiently. We'd love to hear from you. What part of the story stayed with you the most? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Until next time, stay kind, stay open, and stay hopeful.